everybody, welcome to the show, the Court of Public Opinion from the garage. It's a working garage, you know, it's not terribly tidy. Pete and I might take you around. We could do that, couldn't we, Pete? Just basically walk the camera around and show you. We might try and avoid the mess. But as I say, it's a working garage, it's hardly a television studio. Yet, we've got some basic lighting and no makeup, no sound people, no lighting people. There is Peter Clayton behind the camera, and he does his miracle stuff, and I sit in my nice old, what do you call it, Chesterfield chair, which I got. I think somebody was going to throw this away. It's a lovely old thing. Yeah, it's got wear and tear on it, but it's like everything in this garage. Everything in this garage has been thrown away by somebody at least twice, including me. I think I've been thrown away more than twice. But what's it matter? It doesn't matter. Now, before we get into the stuff of the day, March the 30th. Some of the anniversaries of the day. Oh, lordy, lordy. March 30, 1858. The pencil. No, the pencil wasn't invented, but the pencil with the attached eraser. What a clever idea. Putting a rubber on the end of the pencil. Gee whiz. Patented by Hyman L. Lipman of Philadelphia. He would have made a lot of money out of that, I would think, I would hope. He's like the bloke who put the wheels on luggage. Somebody had that staring in the face forever, and nobody thought, somebody thought, well, let's put some wheels on the luggage. Very good idea. 2002, Queen Elizabeth, the Queen Mother, dies at 101 years old. The British consort of King George, the Queen Mother, after his death, dies at 101. Lovely, lovely lady. Dignified. Personified. Dignified. Really, to me? 1981, US President Ronald Reagan is shot and wounded in an assassination attempt by John Hinckley. 3 others were also wounded. He is memorably recorded speaking to Nancy from the car as they rushed him to hospital. And he said, "Nancy, I forgot to duck." Dear, oh dear. We could do a whole program on gun culture in the United States, but it's not, I don't think, anything to do too much with gun culture. Seems to me to be a lot to do with mental health. But you don't want to mix the two. You don't want to mix available guns with people who are totally unstable. As I say, a whole program in that. Ether is used as an anaesthetic for the first time by Dr. Crawford Long in Georgia in 1842. Civil War was in 1861, and God, what happened in the Civil War without anaesthetics? Gee whiz, that was a terrible, terrible time. I don't know why they weren't used. If ether had been discovered and used in that practical sense at that time so many years before. What else can I tell you? Warren Beatty, American actor. Bonnie and Clyde, Shampoo, Dick Tracy. Dick Tracy was a silly movie, and God knows why he did that. Born in Richmond, Virginia, brother of Shirley MacLaine and the husband of Annette Bening. He remained as a bachelor for many, many years, but she finally got him, or somebody finally got him, but he was born this day in 1937. Warren Beatty. Alaska was purchased. Now there's the real estate deal of a lifetime. US buys Alaska from Russia for $7,200,000. That is $109 million in today's money. But what they bought it for was roughly 2 cents an acre. 2 cents an acre. And they didn't even count the gold. Way up north, 1867 was the year. Big Sam left Seattle in the year of 91. North to Alaska. The song is great. Johnny Horton did the song. And it was a movie. I think John Wayne was in the movie, North to Alaska. What else can I tell you? Anna Sewell, English author. She wrote Black Beauty, which was a wonderful story. Black Beauty. She was born in Great Yarmouth in Norfolk. She died in 1878, but born this day, 1820. The first flight of an Australian CAC, what it was a Wirraway military aircraft in Australia. 1939. This was back when we made our own aeroplanes, ladies and gentlemen. We made everything. Everything. 2040 BC is recorded as the first passing of Halley's Comet. The first passing of Earth by Halley's Comet. 240 BC. Celine Dion, Canadian singer. My Heart Will Go On, The Power of Love, 1968. Tell Him was another song that she sang. I don't think that was maybe it was a cover version of the original Tell Him by the Exciters. Do you remember that? Rolf Harris, Australian-born comedian, actor, painter, songwriter, time a kangaroo down sport, television personality, convicted sex offender, born in Western Australia. He's 93 years old. He was born in 1930. Richard Branson is knighted by the then Prince Charles for services to entrepreneurship at Buckingham Palace in 2000. Vincent van Gogh. I've never known whether it's Van Gogh or Van Gogh. It doesn't really matter. The Dutch painter and pioneer of Expressionism. And I see if there's anything on the other page that's worth reporting to you. Fate is telling me that I can't go there for some reason. Oh, Piers Morgan, 1965, English newspaper editor and TV personality, Daily Mirror, CNN, was born, 1965. It is reported Rupert Murdoch paid him $4 million a year to go over and work with Fox in the US. And that included some work here in Australia. Rupert, what were you thinking? There's nothing extraordinary about that bloke. Certainly not worth $4 million a year, in my humble opinion. Inflation in Australia has fallen. This is for the second month in a row, thank God. It's down to 6.8%, which certainly will take the pressure off the Reserve Bank Board to lift the interest rates when they meet in a few days' time to make a decision. But it goes to show that the RBA, the Reserve Bank Board, is in fact making the right decisions. Their strategy is working, in other words. A warning about puppies. I don't know if you've got a puppy. No, I think I might have left it upstairs. Oh, no, here it is. It's worth, if you've got a puppy dog, particularly in South Australia, kennel cough can be very serious. Hundreds of local dogs have been struck down by a potentially life-threatening disease. Pet owners are being warned of a highly transmissible disease spread among dogs that can be life-threatening to our furry friends. Kennel cough. The dog can get it from those communal water bowls. You know, they leave them outside cafes and pubs and in shopping centres and places like that, and that's an act of great kindness, except for the fact that if you have something like kennel cough out and about in South Australia, you really don't want to have your dog drinking out of one of those. So please be careful. Infected dogs often spread the disease before they even start coughing, even show any symptoms at all. It's a terrible thing and can be fatal if you don't get on it very, very quickly. The federal government has a bill before the House to earmark $500 million for affordable and social housing. Now, the idea is that Canberra would invest, when I say Canberra, silly me, we, the people, the taxpayers, we would invest $10 billion in the stock market, sort of a future fund, which may produce $500 million a year in dividends. These things, there are no guarantees, you know. Over 5 years, it could produce 30,000 affordable homes. Now, this is a case of the good giving away or giving way to the perfect. You throw the good out, searching for the perfect. The Greens say no. What they want is $5 billion a year to be spent on building houses. Sounds to me like a figure that they've pulled out of thin air. Even if you could spend $5 billion on social housing, housing trust, housing commission, is that a good idea? Is it? I ask you the question. I have an open mind to a degree. Throw the publicly funded example of Aboriginal housing up, and you get some idea of my concern, and I'm sure other people's concern as well. We build thousands of houses for Aboriginals through various Aboriginal funded housing people, organisations, collectives, that sort of thing. You get my drift, I'm sure. They are trashed within 10 minutes. And I haven't seen it, but I have had people on my radio programs over the years to explain to me almost in tears what goes on in the outback of Australia with this free housing that Aboriginal people don't want. Somebody thinks it's a good idea, but not the Aboriginals. You know, they tear the doors off and chop them up for firewood and burn them in the middle of the living room. And Toyota Land Cruisers, and they run out of petrol and they just leave them in the middle of the desert. Now, I don't think it's apocryphal, those stories. Too many people who spend time in the outback have told me about all of this. It's a scandal, if it's true. If it's true. I tend to believe that it is. Gets no publicity or public comment. It's not politically correct. And to point these things out, of course, even, is not politically correct. But that's what we do here in the court of public opinion. When something like $5 billion is wasted and achieves nothing, it has to be talked about. Has to be. In New Zealand, the Labour government promised to build, I think it was 1 million houses. Something like 1 million houses for people who couldn't afford a roof over their heads. Well, that didn't work. Didn't work. There is a living, breathing example of what not to do. A shocking failure. I would believe in socialism if it did. But it doesn't. You've got to go to the cause of the problem. Why are so many people homeless? The cause. Fix the cause. You know, if you don't fix the cause, you're like a dog chasing its tail. You'll never be able to build enough houses for people who want a free house. It's simple. I think people value what they have worked for, what they have been striving for. Abraham Lincoln said, of the many things, wonderful things that he said, even though he was a bit of a lefty, I've got great admiration for Abraham Lincoln. He said, no government should do for people what they could and should rightfully do for themselves. And you can look that up. Fairly profound. As I mentioned to you earlier in the week, South Australia now has the first voice, Aboriginal voice to Parliament. It was passed by both houses last Sunday, peacefully, quite amicably, I believe. So if this happens so smoothly here, and we're a great test market for all kinds of things. Why do we need to spend $100 million on a referendum to change the Constitution when we can achieve the whole thing relatively cheaply, as we did here in South Australia, in a matter of a few weeks? Why couldn't we do that federally? The voice legislation here is different. I will grant you that. It is not interfering with the Constitution. The voice legislation is different. It says the government is not bound, I'll just get the words right here, the government is not bound by the advice that it may be given by the voice, and a future government can remove it altogether. So this thing we have here really is, in all honesty, quite benign. It's a token. It's a piece of public relations or race relations. A gesture pretty much means nothing. But it sailed through and didn't end the world, but you can't pretend that what they're doing or about to do in Canberra is anything like that which we have done here. Completely different. But they're going to try and say, well, this is the template. You'll see that no bad things happened in South Australia, so let's do it federally. It's different, completely different. By the way, Pete got another letter from Jacinta Price, which I'll have to read to you tomorrow. It's another good one. The Prime Minister said on Tuesday night, "We must act. Real action on climate change." Wish I had 10 cents for every time I heard that clapped out phrase. Real action on climate change. Is there one politician who will stand up and say, why? Why? What is the problem? Would you please tell us what the problem is that relates to Australia? You guys are responsible for Australia, not the world. What is the problem here in Australia? Enunciate it. Tell us. A $15 billion hit to the economy to achieve absolutely nothing. A hit on 215, as they call it, big emitters, with this safeguard mechanism. They don't want to call it a carbon tax. Safeguard mechanism. A bill to hit every man and woman, every family, and to achieve absolutely nothing. There is no evidence that CO2 does any harm. If there is, please show me. Send me the reference. Tell me. CO2. Show it to me. While China is opening 2 new coal-fired power stations every week, this climate thing, ladies and gentlemen, is a scam. It's a con. The Labor Party is a fraud. I don't know about generally, but certainly on this subject. 215 of our most profitable businesses will be hit with this new tax. Safeguard mechanism. No one else in the world is doing this. Business is being bullied into thinking that certainty is a good thing. Certain disaster is a good thing? Please tell me. This is the Stockholm Syndrome, writ large. We are hostage to these mindless thugs in Canberra. Others can benefit from our natural resources, but we can't. We can't. Australia, 1.3% of global emissions. These idiots will bankrupt this country to achieve nothing, but why? Why? There is no climate crisis. No climate emergency. It is nonsense. They're working on the basis if you tell a lie often enough, people will believe it. Or enough people will believe it. Where is the trade union movement with all of this? Jobs will go, never to return. Socialism and communism, Labour and the Greens. They must be held responsible for this fraud. And if I'm still alive and still able to talk to you in this situation or in some other medium, I will be reminding them every single day of the week. Every electricity bill, every job lost, every bankruptcy. Remember, these 215 big emitters are big employers. They produce big wealth, big opportunity. All this tax is going to do is to produce big trouble. Capital is mobile. We are alone in this climate nonsense. No one else in the world would be so stupid. At a time when we need every taxpayer dollar, we are sending our last remaining manufacturing industry offshore, producing disincentive to invest. Iron, steel, cement, coal, gas, aluminium. Do you think these big employers are going to hang around? I don't. I can hear you saying, but why? Why would any government do this destructiveness? Well, think back to 1972, ladies and gentlemen. If I have time to remind you. 1972, a time when we were independent in just about everything. We made everything. Unemployment was about 0.35%. There was no unemployment. You came out of school and you picked any job you liked. There was about 4 jobs for anyone who wanted one. We made electrical goods. We made cameras. We made aeroplanes. We made ships, electrical goods. You name it. Then along comes the... Did I mention cars? We had a thriving car industry. Anyway, along comes the Whitlam Labor government. And one of the first things they do, they get on a plane, Gough Whitlam and Lance Barnard, his deputy, and they fly to Peru, Lima in Peru, where they sign the Lima Declaration. Please look it up. Look it up. The Lima Declaration agreed Australia would divest itself of our manufacturing industry, believe it or not. This safeguard mechanism bill, a sleazy deal done with the Greens, is a continuation of this nonsense. Again, I ask, where is the union movement? Back in 72, they were in lockstep with Gough. They are aiding and abetting this mass loss of jobs. Disgraceful. I mean, the trade union movement is almost irrelevant. There are only 13% of us who are members, and I think this will probably seal their fate. Anyway, that's enough of my ranting. Thank you very much for viewing the Court of Public Opinion, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Jeremy Cordeaux. Peter Clayton and I will be back. Talk to you tomorrow. Believe in yourself, and goodbye for now.